Good morning, one and all, and welcome to another episode here at the Damage Report. Today is Thursday. It's big news follow-up Thursdays. And not only do we have a full show, an awesome 90 minutes of news, buckle up, hold on to your butts. We also have a special treat, but we don't have it yet. So we are going to be joined wonderfully, blessedly by Gary Chambers. Gary Chambers had been on the show multiple times last year. Helped get us through one of the most difficult parts of the past few years of politics, pandemic and the election and all of that. And then he ran for office, couldn't do the show for a while. Now he is going to be back, but we're having some technical issues. So what we're gonna do is something that we have not done in like 2 years. I'm actually gonna be doing a solo segment. We're gonna be talking about the voting rights bill, the voting rights bill that was and then wasn't. And then during our first break, which might or might not still be a social break, we're gonna be connecting with Gary, and then he's gonna join us for the rest of the show. And in that rest of the show, there's actually quite a lot to look forward to. We're gonna give you updates on two of your favorite politicians, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. What's up with them? Is it good stuff or is it bad stuff? Don't go anywhere. We're gonna break it down for you. And let's see, Donald Trump's new social network. So he wants to get you to move past Facebook and Twitter and all that. He's got a new one, and it sort of had an initial rollout, and we're gonna evaluate how that went together. And then we got a whole bunch of stuff. Can you actually get jobs? They say we're all lazy and nobody's trying to get a job. What if you actually do? What happens to you? Meghan McCain is complaining about literally everything, and cops are the worst in a bunch of different ways. So we've got a lot to look forward to. You have me coughing to look forward to. Before we get to all that though, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that would be great. And if you want to send us comments, tweets, super chats, you know the deal. We'll have that for you. My cough is almost assuredly making my producers even more frustrated than they already were with the tech problems they're dealing with. I can see Sophie's face. So with that, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give it the old college try and try to do this first block. Okay, so let's take a moment away from the infrastructure bill for just a little bit. That train wreck is coming, don't worry. But remember voting rights, remember those? When we used to have those? So there have been a couple of different bills that the Democrats have discussed through the course of this year. I apologize for 1 sec, I'm sorry. This is like really devastating me right now. Okay. I got a COVID test 2 days ago, I don't have COVID. So there have been a couple of different bills that the Democrats have tried to roll out around voting rights. You of course have the For the People Act, Joe Biden's bill, pretty all encompassing, not only in ensuring voting rights and ending partisan gerrymandering, but also new disclosure of campaign finance. And that was a non-starter. And I don't just mean because of the filibuster, like that eventually would have stopped it. I mean, they didn't even get started because people like Joe Manchin were against that bill. Doesn't seem to really care about whether you get to vote or not, and certainly doesn't want more disclosure of big donations and things like that. So he was against that. So then he had a second bill that was more pared down, and no Republicans would support it. But don't worry, we have a backup, and that is this third voting bill that Joe Manchin approved. He's down for it, and he has spent literally weeks trying to get Republicans to sign on to it, because it isn't just that we need to get Manchin. It isn't just that we need to get to 50 votes. This is the Senate where there's an automatic filibuster for literally everything. So you have to get 10 Republicans to sign on. I mean, you don't have to. Alternatively, you could get rid of the filibuster or reform it on this topic, but that again is a non-starter for Joe Manchin. And so there's been all this drama. We've gone through literally months of bill after bill after bill and courting Republicans and all that. And yesterday they had a vote, and what happened? Well, the Senate Republicans blocked it. It didn't pass. I mean, it's not even going on to a full, like they're just automatically blocking it in the Senate because, and it's the weirdest thing, Joe Manchin, who was so sure that he could get Republicans to cross the aisle and spent weeks doing it. By the way, not just spending his weeks, let's be clear, he's spending our weeks. We don't have long for the window to close where literally nothing can be done. We have this brief period, and he wasted more of it yet again, and no Republicans actually supported it. So you had all 50 Democrats and independents supported bringing, this is the Freedom to Vote Act to the floor, but 50 Republicans voted against doing so. And that means that they were 10 short of the 60 you need in a functional democracy. You should have to have 60 senators, which represent far, far, far less than 50% of the population, can block voting reform necessary to reform the system to make it more actually reflective of what the people want. Is that amazing? That you have a system that is biased against the majority, and because it's biased against the majority, it can stop reforms necessary to get rid of the bias. It's baked in. And you have it being defended. But I wanna be very clear about who the ultimate bad guys are here, because obviously the 50 Republicans are bad. They don't actually have a problem. It's not that the bill is gonna reduce the security or any of the nonsense that they're going to say to cover for it. They want states to be free to suppress the vote, and that's what we've been getting. We'll get back to the numbers in a little bit. We've gone over them multiple times. So they're bad. We all know that. That's the easiest thing in the world. But it is the Democrats at the end of the day that in theory are in charge. Now they're not in charge really in the Senate under the status quo because of the filibuster, but they do have everything they need to reform the filibuster or to get rid of the filibuster. Along a wide swath of possible reforms, you could do one of the simplest things that I want, which is hashtag force the buster. That is actually making them filibuster if they're gonna filibuster. Because here is the amazing thing. Republicans voted against this weakened down version of a weakened down version of a voting rights bill. And we're talking about it, and some other good people in independent media will do it. New York Times had an article about it, that's good. And that was yesterday, and now we're moving on. And that's it. What, is there gonna be a news cycle for the next 5 days about it? No, of course there's not gonna be a news cycle for 5 days about it. And so what do you have? You have the Republicans doing something that is, at least in theory, very unpopular. You have them willing to potentially grind the Senate to a halt to make sure that you can't vote. But I said hypothetically unpopular because they don't have to do that. They don't have to grind anything to a halt. They just wouldn't support it. They filibustered it with no filibuster. There's not gonna be any Mr. Smith goes to Washington. There's not gonna be any Cat in the Hat readings. Ted Cruz isn't gonna have to talk about what movies he's watched recently. There's not going to be a display in DC that the media, or at the very least C-SPAN, can stay focused on. And we get to see as a country, how long are the Republicans willing to stop this? How long are they willing to show the American people that they don't give a damn if we have a functioning democracy or not? But we don't have that. And it's not that we don't have that because of the Republicans. We don't have that because of the Democrats. We can't get them to eliminate the filibuster. We can't get them to reform the filibuster, lower the threshold maybe, which, let's be very clear, if you lowered it to 56 or to 55 votes or to 52 votes, it wouldn't matter in this case anyway. They're not gonna do a carve out so that we can have a democracy, that certain bills like this can be passed. Although I will point out, as I always do, that carve outs already exist for everything the Republicans will ever want to do. They can get their tax cuts, they can get their justices, but you don't get a carve out for democracy. And you can't even force them to actually do the filibuster. The simplest reform imaginable, that is beyond us because of people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, but not even just them. There's others besides. So we can't get that. We can't get that. So what do you not get? Again, bearing in mind that this is a watered down version of a watered down version, the bill would have set federal standards for early and mail-in voting and make Election Day a national holiday, among other provisions. The most obvious common sense things you can imagine. It would also mandate that voters provide some form of identification before casting a ballot, a requirement that many Democrats had previously resisted. That's in for two reasons. One, because people like Joe Manchin have bought into right-wing propaganda about voter IDs and things like that. But more importantly, to get some Republicans to cross over. So this is bipartisan watch, day 500. Did it work? We get their racist ass provision and we add it to the voting rights bill. Did they line up for it, to support it? That's what they want. They want voting ID. No, 50 didn't, 10 didn't, 1 didn't. You get nothing. You give them what they want, you get nothing. Because while they want that, more importantly, they don't want you to be able to vote. And they certainly don't want the Democrats to pass anything. Now, sharing my anger on this topic, we have Ilhan Omar, who says the filibuster and the Democratic senators who continue to uphold it are killing our democracy. That is obviously true. And you have some good progressives who would do something about it, but far too many would not. Now, I have an idea of one other individual who might also be frustrated by this whole thing. And he joins us now, Gary Chambers. Welcome to the Damage Report. How's it going, man? It's been a while.
Hey, brother, how are you? It has been a while.
No, we're super excited to have you back. We had a lot of what passes for fun in American politics at the end of last year. And then you went off to serve in a different way. But now you're back and we're very glad about that. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, man. You know, I was listening to you talk and everything you said is spot on. We are in a deeply troubling time right now in this country. And we've got two people that consistently become a hurdle for the rest of us. And it's unfair to the American people.
Yeah. You know, West Virginia is a great place. Arizona's a great place. They deserve representation. Why do they get to determine if we can vote? Like, why should Georgians not be able to vote because the senator from West Virginia and Arizona are like, no, I don't really care about it. And it's more than just those two in this topic. You know, there's enough Democrats. Like, you have to get rid of the filibuster to have any chance of this succeeding. You have to get rid of the filibuster, and there's multiple who will not sign on to that. And it's just incredibly frustrating because the stakes couldn't be higher. And we did all this work to get to a position where it's possible. Like, they elected 2 Democrats in Georgia. Nobody believed it could be done. And we still don't get any progress. We don't get any reform.
Well, that means we got to grow our margins. Like, we can't be accepting a 50-50 equal on both sides with the vice president. We need to grow our margins. We need to mount up and make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that people who are running for the US Senate in some of these contested races, that they win. Because what we see is that we know we need more done there because we got people that are obstructionists, people who don't care about what happens in places like Louisiana and Georgia. And let's be honest, they don't have to be as concerned about black and brown people in some instances because they don't represent us. And so when you live where I live in a state that is 35% black, you know, we see these things as a real impact on our quality of life and ability to be able to move things forward. And what we don't know is what attempts will be done in the years ahead to continue to try and strip away our rights down here in the South.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We definitely do need to do that. We need to win some of these seats currently held by Republicans, and maybe even more importantly, we need to boot the corporate Dems out of the party. Sinema cannot win her primary. Joe Manchin is a harder target to beat considering the state, but we have got to win those spots. But while you're 100% right about that's what we need to do, and by the way, and we need to continue pressuring before then because we can't wait 2 years, we can't wait 4 years, we certainly can't wait 6 years for this. The difficulty is that this directly impacts our ability to do that. So we need to elect more Democrats. How do you do that? You win in states that currently Democrats are not winning in. And what is happening in those states, especially the purple states, the states that are trending blue? What are they doing? They're passing all these bills that make it harder to vote, harder to register. Election day is not gonna be a holiday. You can't do mail-in balloting. You can't help people vote. You can't give them water in line. And so we, in theory, need to get to future elections and win those spots. A bill like this, or especially the For the People Act, would get rid of those laws, would make it easier to vote so that you could win those races. But we're not gonna do that. They're not gonna get rid of the filibuster. And so all these states, and by the way, let's go through it. Between the beginning of this year and September 27th, at least 19 states had enacted 33 laws that make it harder for Americans to vote. Now, there were other states that were making it easier to vote, easier access. Let's see, 25 states enacted 62 laws with provisions that expand voting access. But the issue is, and this was an investigation done by the Brennan Center for Justice, the states that enacted restrictive laws are ones where it's already difficult to vote. The ones that enacted expansive laws are the ones where it's already relatively easy to vote. And so we effectively have something like voting rights apartheid, where if you live in a good state, you can vote. If you live in a difficult state, a really red state, it's harder and harder. So how do you win in those spots where they're making it so impossible to actually vote, Gary?
Well, I think part of that is, we have to look at this in the long game. And that's a difficult thing to say when we recognize all the things that we're up against. And for me, organizing is about being very strategic in our moves forward. We got to continue to apply pressure and not let up on them. We've got to apply pressure to the president because he can use his bully pulpit more than he does. He can also leverage the resources that go into those states and say, you know what, if you're not gonna look out for the people in other states, then those people, especially in a state like West Virginia, where we know that the federal government is sending more to West Virginia than West Virginia is sending to the federal government, that if you are not look out for the people in other communities and other places, then why should we be sending money from California to take care of the people of West Virginia? And that is a reality, right? And the president needs to have those conversations in a very real way with Joe Manchin. Instead of letting one person dictate the destiny of an entire people. And that is what is so troubling to me about this entire situation. It is giving him this false sense of power, right? He may have a power in this moment, but outside of that, who gives a damn who Joe Manchin is, right? Yeah. And so this makes him feel important. This makes him feel relevant. And we are empowering him more by not ensuring that he does not have the ability to go back into West Virginia and look like a champion.
Yeah, no, you are 100% right. Yeah, and one of the reasons we focus a lot on this on the show, and unfortunately, this is a period where we're outside of an election, less people are paying attention, and that bothers me so much is like what happens isn't always just due to the days, the weeks before it. Like the 2024 election, fast forward a couple years, we're gonna be working for months trying to get people to vote, get them invested and all that stuff. And that is crucial. But in some ways, right now is as important in determining who's gonna vote because they're manipulating state laws to make it harder and harder for Democrats to win the states that were responsible for Joe Biden winning before. In the same way that on the show yesterday, I was talking about like they're taking over these school boards, these insane anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers. We're gonna be doing stories in 3 years about the insane things that these school boards are doing. And that'll be important then, but it's because of now. And so we cannot take a year or 2 years off between these elections. We have to be invested and we have to put pressure on the politicians we have right now. And that's why Gary's so right. Joe Biden is supposed to be worried about his legacy, but he seems incredibly apathetic about it. He's watching Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, and that's what we're gonna talk about next, like chop out huge sections of it. And he's acting like it doesn't matter, which is either a really risky strategy or an honest reflection of his attachment to these things, his true attachment to getting things done.
I try to be diplomatic when I speak about the president. But Joe is who we always knew he was. Yeah. And as he has served in this office, he has revealed that. And if I had the opportunity to talk with the president, what I would tell him is everything that you gain, you're gonna lose in a short order. If you look back, the Obama presidency was crippled from the midterm elections after they passed the Affordable Care Act on because he lost the House on the other side of that, right? And what's gonna happen in this situation with President Biden? How does he maintain this slim majority that he has if he is not more aggressive to ensure that voting rights are passed? And listen, you can't keep asking Black and brown people to get up and mobilize and organize to show up in droves if you ain't giving us nothing. Because many of us did not want you, right? Yeah. There are many of us who were not in favor of this president. However, we knew we could not go in the direction that we were in. And now you are there and not giving us the very things that we demanded from day one, right? These are not new things. These are things that we have said from day one. We're just watching the Supreme Court right now work against qualified immunity, right? These are things that are working against Black folks in America. And we have a president who's sitting there with a Black vice president, and they are letting a signature piece of legislation to the core voting bloc of this party go up in smoke. And how do you then come back? You can't come back to folks like me and say, hey, charge them up and get them to go out and vote. What do I have to go and get them to go out and vote for?
Yeah, it's an indisputable point, and hopefully someone will bring it to the people in power. Okay, we're gonna take our first break. By the way, we will have our social break. We're gonna have an actual break just for a little bit because we gotta do a couple tech things, but I'll read some of your comments in just a few. Well, welcome back, everyone. We got a little social break going on. Gary, I know we had to integrate you right in the middle of the show, but it is really good to have you. How have you been? What have you been up to lately?
You know, last time we talked, I think I was just getting ready to launch Bigger Than Me, and so we've been going all around the country, helping folks get elected and run their races and build out civic engagement in communities.
Oh, we're back.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good now.
All right, build out civic engagement in communities and do work all over the place, trying to help progressives get mobilized. You know, one of the things we realized from our congressional race was that in the Deep South, there wasn't a lot of energy around progressive candidates. And so we want to try and help make that happen. And it's been a great thing, and I'm excited about the work ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome. Joe Biden, Gary is trying, make it as easy as possible for him. Like, I honestly don't know. Like, if someone asks, so okay, so elections in 7 months, what did Biden do for us? There was the COVID aid bill, and he didn't draw on a map of a hurricane with a Sharpie. Like that, I don't know that that's that convincing. I'll do my best, but anyway, okay. Let's see what's going on out there in the audience as well, though. Forbesilla said, John, you failed to inform your chat how cute Gary is. I demand he be on more. These are the comments we're getting.
Thank you.
May Money to Building with an early super chat said, Solo John, you're killing it. I think the rain has me disoriented because I missed 2 pre-shows. Nice to meet Mr. Gary, which Queen of Oakland Dragon. Thank you, May Money. It's really nice of you. Okay, Eurolino says John needs more rest and more vitamin C. I had been coughing at the beginning of the show. That's almost certainly true. Peachy Packs hit 8 months on Twitch. Thank you, Peachy Packs, for that. Cypher Shadow Dragon hit 15 months, right up there at the beginning of the pack. 15 months of a Dragon family. Love you all. Thank you. And Holy Beer Dragon started us off with 10 gift subs. How nice is Holy Beer Dragon there? Ghost Redux gifted 1 as well, and Snake Anthony gifted 1. You guys make the community just so inviting. Thank you for that. We got more coming up after this. Okay, let's dive into this whole infrastructure thing. We got a video for you.
Dear Senator Sinema, As members of your Veterans Advisory Council, we feel as though we are being used as window dressing for your own image and not to provide counsel on what's best for Arizonans. You've repeatedly ignored our feedback, urging you to act on 3 issues that support our veterans and protect the heart of our nation. We must protect voting rights by passing the Freedom to Vote Act. We are appalled by your failure to address this issue. You campaigned on lowering prescription drug prices, but now you're opposing the Build Back Better Act. Are you choosing to answer to big donors rather than Arizonans? You were a no-show on the vote to establish a commission to investigate the insurrection. These are not the actions of a maverick. As such, we respectfully resign from your Veterans Advisory Council. Sincerely, Sylvia Gonzalez-Anders.
David Lucier. Rick Peters. Terry Araman. Dana Allman.
Call on Senator Sinema to support the Build Back Better Act now.
As a powerful ad there, it's from Common Defense. That was Sylvia Gonzalez-Anders there, but you can see that there's 5 members of her 20-member strong advisory panel that was put together of different veterans to advise her. A quarter of them have left. They're done with her nonsense, the games, the lies about what she's gonna do, what she's gonna support, the leaving so that she doesn't have to vote one way or the other to establish the insurrection panel, basically all of the childish nonsense and corruption. They're done with it. And so they put out this letter. I want to read just a couple more quotes from it. They say, "You have become one of the principal obstacles to progress, answering to big donors rather than your own people. We shouldn't have to buy representation from you, and your failure to stand by your people and see their urgent needs is alarming." They said that she hung her constituents out to dry. So Gary, I know that a lot of people, there's a lot of reporting of former volunteers for her, people who had helped get her elected initially, feeling like they've been betrayed. Some of her friends anonymously saying they feel like they don't know her anymore. Now vets who advise her are actually stepping away as well.
Senator Sinema frustrates me in a very deep way. When we talk about the Build Back Better plan and the ability to go ahead and do infrastructure, I live in South Louisiana. We just had Hurricane Ida a little over a month ago. And we have treetops that are gone off in entire sections of our community. We have swaths of land in South Louisiana with blue rooftops right now because climate change is real. And we're dealing with this. We had a near Category 5 hurricane this year and the same last year with Hurricane Laura, right? And on both sides of our state, we're dealing with devastation and recovery. We've got power lines, John, where we drive through these areas and miles of power lines are down. That Build Back Better would help us put those power lines underground to ensure that when storms come in the future, we don't deal with the same level of devastation. So as someone who lives in a state that is deeply impacted by this, that ranks probably in the lower 5 of infrastructure in the country, this is a problem for us. And having a senator that's a holdout and then doesn't even have the courage to show up to vote. And this is my issue with that. If you're gonna be bad, right? Don't run from it. Stand 10 toes down in it. Hold your position so that we know where you are and we can come get you the same way that you are leaving us. And so she is doing this very intentionally. I've seen people walk up to her on airplanes and she ignore people that are talking to her. That's not the type of person that's truly concerned about all of the American people. And the real deal is people like Sinema are more concerned with people who don't share their values, the values that they campaigned on to be elected, than they are the people who are the majority that voted for them. If you were wise, you could grow your base by doing that which the people desire. And there are thousands, even millions of people in Arizona that didn't vote. The question is why? How do you activate those people? And you activate those people by giving them what they want. And what she's doing is giving the people who refuse to do better what they want instead of the people who want better for all of us.
Yep, and we're gonna demonstrate it actually, because the veterans are saying that she's just, she's there for her donors, and she wants to make clear without ever saying it that is the case. That's the effect she's had in a lot of different areas of the Build Back Better bill, which, by the way, is not a progressives bill. Gary and I didn't write that. And if Bernie had been president, that's not the bill we would have. We are already doing the moderate thing, but we can't get the moderates to sign on to it. Isn't that ridiculous? But so here's the most recent thing from Sinema. Here's a fun little headline. Sinema's opposition stymies Democrats' planned tax rate increases. So you see that and you think, okay, well, yeah, John, you talked about that a few weeks ago. She didn't want to raise the corporate tax as high, as some of the other Dems wanted to. No, I want to be very clear about this. What her position is, according to people in the negotiations, she is against any increase in marginal tax rates on high-income individuals, capital gains, corporations. Literally no tax increases. Nothing. Not like slightly higher than Trump had it, but not back to where it was under Obama. Literally nothing. Despite, you could go to her Twitter feed and all of her tweets about the common sense and need to raise taxes on corporations and all that. This is just paying back her donors, who are rich individuals. They're the heads of companies. They invest in these companies and they don't want them to be taxed. And here, I just want to really put a button in this. I read right before the show, you remember the bathroom protest? They followed her in the bathroom. Arizona State Police have recommended charges against those protesters because what they did is illegal. Taking bribes from wealthy individuals and corporations and then totally shutting down an entire presidency to make sure that they don't pay a single dollar more in taxes. Literal money for money, that's all it is. Not illegal, not unethical by the Senate's rules, totally acceptable. But if you follow her into a bathroom to ask about it, you might end up in prison. Is that amazing, Gary?
That's wild. And if you don't want to talk to the people, you shouldn't put your name on a ballot to represent.
Yeah. Imagine, like, Gary, if you were in office right now, imagine like someone coming up to Gary sitting in his car and they're like, hey, so I'm just wondering which way you're gonna vote in this. And Gary just like takes a look and just drives away. Like, you can't imagine it. You can't imagine a real person doing this, but she's no longer a real person. And the sum total of the effect of their opposition, like I'm gonna run through a couple of quick graphics that I talked about in the pre-show yesterday. Tuition-free community colleges out of the package now, supposedly. That's what Biden is telling progressives. No tuition-free community college. By the way, this isn't Bernie Sanders' 4-year public college. This is literally just community college. Gone, you don't get it. Child tax credit, maybe a year. They might extend it for 1 year. Incredibly popular. It's helped massively to cut childhood poverty in America. Enjoy that for 1 year, okay? So before the next Guardians of the Galaxy is out, it's gonna be gone for good. So enjoy it while you can get it. Home health care, like literally stopping elderly people from needlessly dying in their homes, that's been massively cut. The Clean Power Act, so much already being cut. Paid family leave, they're gonna cut it apparently from 12 weeks to 4 weeks. Like, it's not 2 senators oppose it, so they shave off a week or two, because there's only a couple of them. No, 2 senators oppose it, so maybe you get 4 weeks. If they're feeling generous, maybe you get 4 weeks. It's so amazing, this whole process. It's kind of what we expected, but it's so brazen.
I think that, we've got to stop on the front side compromising with these folks, right? We know who they are. We've seen them in action for years at this point. And so we're gonna get this every time we vote for moderates. Every time we let a moderate go in and represent the people, this is what we're gonna end up with. And if you don't have, the reason the government is set up the way that it is so that the presidency has this agenda and then the Congress is a checks and the balances to that, right? And so this is a moderate president. There's no, he's like watching mayonnaise. It's nothing impressive about Joe Biden. Like, you don't get excited watching Joe Biden walk out. There's, outside of putting the bomber glasses on, like that's the thrill of the day with Joe, right? And so knowing this is not like we're going to pretend that this guy is like with me, okay? He's not one of us. He is a moderate, and so for you to go against his plan, it's almost like you just don't care. You just don't care. And that is the most disrespectful part of all of this for me, right? That you can have somebody that represents us that just displays on a regular basis how little they care about us. And when you're a United States Senator, let's be clear. Though you are elected by the people of Arizona or your home state, there's only 100 of them in the country. And so you represent all of us when you're there. And we want you to consider all of us in these decisions. We know that Republicans are already voting against their interests. We need Democrats that vote in the interests of the people.
Yeah, 100%. But they don't. And it's super clear. We just had it with Sinema. Let's go to another example of this. A person who has a relationship with Joe Manchin that someone like me doesn't have, someone like Gary Chambers doesn't have. Let's take a look at this video.
Joe is the most important guy in DC. Maybe the most important guy in America today. He is keeping our elected officials somewhere in the middle. And anywhere center right to center left works for me.
Okay, so that is Nelson Peltz, the founder of Tryon Partners, formerly a supporter of Donald Trump, interestingly enough. Had a fundraiser for the former president at his home in Palm Beach, Florida. Tickets to that cost $500,000 per couple. He's a billionaire. Very wealthy individual. He's contributed over $200,000 to the RNC during the last election cycle, donated to David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler because he wanted the Republicans to maintain control of the Senate, gave to House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. He has $1.7 billion. And he said, we need Manchin to keep things in the middle. Center right to center left, I don't care, it's good for me. And I just want to thank Nelson Peltz because he's making the point better than I have been able to of what the hell the center is supposed to be. What the F moderate means. What moderate means is billionaires like it. It does not challenge billionaires. And that is what Joe Manchin and people like Kirsten Sinema are there to do. It's not moderate, it's not center, it's not between two things. It's not a compromise between left and right. It is its own hardcore radical position. But the radical position is not to remake America in a leftist image or remake America in a conservative image. It is to make sure that nothing changes, nothing fundamental, nothing structural. They have become rich, powerful, wealthy, in control with the system that we have. And they have radicals who want to maintain that system. And so when you hear moderate, when you hear the center, center left, center right, whatever, just think of Nelson Peltz. Think of his interests, because he doesn't want anything to change. Dude's made a couple billion and he's looking towards 10. He'd love to hit 50. He wants to get richer, but he's gonna need people like Joe Manchin to make sure that it happens. Gary, what do you think?
I think that there's this desire, even when you look at a Trump becoming president, that people look at rich people and say, oh, they know something, right? And what rich people know is how to keep themselves rich. They don't necessarily know how to solve problems for working class people. As a matter of fact, they do a really good job of giving a stiff arm to working class people and making sure that we're not advancing beyond where they want us to be, because that cuts into their profits and their ability to get a higher ranking on the Forbes list, right? At Peltz level in the world, it's about how much more can I acquire to leave to my great grandkids, and we got folks worrying about how can they feed their grandkids right there, right?
Yeah.
We got people worrying about how can they put food on the table for the children in their families right now, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, staying in the middle don't do nothing for nobody. Right? And that is the thing that we need to recognize, that if we do what we've always done, we're gonna get what we've always got, and this country can never be all that it can be. We've got to be able to look at people like that and say, you know what, just because you made a lot of money doesn't mean that you know a damn thing about politics and public policy. It doesn't mean, because what we realize with billionaires is all they're concerned about is the business of government, right? Not the services of government. And government is supposed to serve the people. And the things that serve the people are important. And the way we fund them is by making people like him pay more of their money, which is a fair share, right?
Yeah.
Because don't tell me just because he gives millions of dollars in taxes, but you got billions sitting there, and the percentage, I may pay 28, 29% in taxes, and a guy like him pays 10, 12% in taxes. That's not fair.
Yeah,
just because he pays more money,
that much.
Who feels it more? And so we're not having these conversations in a very practical way. We're allowing people to be mesmerized by the money that other people have. I want you to have money. And the only way you're gonna have money is if we build a more balanced system.
100%. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who did that study of people like Bezos and Elon Musk, the actual effective tax rate that they pay. This dude has $1.7 billion. I don't know what his salary is. It's probably like 20, 30, $40 million. But what I know is it ain't nothing compared to the wealth he has. So even if we raise the tax rate 2 or 5 or 10%, he'll pay a little bit more. He might, let's say he pays $1 million. He has 1.7 billion. You don't care about that. It doesn't have any effect on him whatsoever. You could have a wealth tax. You could actually tax accrued wealth that's just sitting there, often being held outside of the United States. And again, it wouldn't actually have an effect on him. That dude, if you took 2% of his wealth every year, you know what would happen to it? It would continue to grow. It wouldn't even shrink, and if it did, it wouldn't have any effect on him. But they're addicted. It's dragon sickness. That's all it is. He is sitting on a mountain of gold and he wants more of it, and he doesn't want you to have it. And he is fine if you suffer as a result of that lack. And if it means that we're not gonna invest in infrastructure, we're not gonna build more highways, there's not gonna be elder care, we're not gonna have any of that. He doesn't care, he's fine. He ain't suffering for anything at $1.7 billion. And by the way, we don't have time for the video, but he says he talks to Manchin every week, and I am not surprised by that at all. Just like the Exxon CEO and all of that, they have direct access to these senators. We have to follow them into bathrooms to have a chance of talking with them. They get phone calls every week because they dish out checks for $500,000 at a time. Any final thoughts, Gary?
Who paid for your politician?
Yep, yeah. We're gonna take our second break. And when we come back, we're gonna mix it up, have a little bit of fun. Donald Trump has a social media platform. We're gonna break it down after this. Okay, buddy, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. In the member comments, Cassie Dupras says, this vote blue no matter who nonsense is directly negatively impacting marginalized groups. Yes, we need to get the best people in every election, in primaries, in general elections. There should be all hands on deck in Arizona. They should already be doing it. I know that people are activists are doing great work and there's candidates and stuff like that, but she cannot win. Gail Hefner became a tier 1 member for the 11th month in a row. Thank you, Gail. Been around since the very beginning. Says, yeah, Gary and John, happy Thursday. Thank you. Gary and John and you, thank you. Lindsay Kempfer has been a tier 3 member for 10 months. Damn, again, way back to the beginning. We do those monthly live Q&As where we just chit chat about all sorts of stuff. By the way, that's gonna be coming up noon Pacific, 3 Eastern next Thursday. So if you'd like to become a tier 3 member or upgrade your membership, you get access to that and all the other ones too if you want. We do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It says, woot woot Dragon Squad, thank you for that. Okay, Stoneflower Dragon says, why don't Dems remove Sen committee responsibilities from those 2 unmentionables? Because they won't even talk about them in public. You think they're gonna strip their committee privileges? If I were Biden, if I had been trying to become president for like 80 years, and I finally get in, shockingly, beating a sitting president, and 2 senators tried to ruin everything I promised I would do, I would, to whatever extent possible, literally boot them from the party. He won't even name them. He says, well, there's 2 votes we need. Well, that's sly, Joe. That's really gonna get you the bill you want. It's just pathetic. Anyway, let's see. Vicky Gray says, Gary, where can we contribute to your cause? Is there a way that they can contribute to the cause?
biggerthanme.com/donate. That's simple.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you. Says, I agree. Gary is adorbs. John too. Thank you. Thank you for adding me on at the end there. I appreciate that. Have a wonderful day from the land of the newlywed and the nearly dead, Santa blah blah. Thank you. Jeez. Okay, let's see. We have a poem from Franklin Sharpslicer, which is about Nelson Peltz. So I don't know how he made it as fast as he did, but it says, Nelson Peltz, CEO, Wendy's Meals. I wonder how he'll feel more if I stop eating from his burger store. Where's the beef to steal their lines? I can do without his boogers anytime. Dragon Daddy do well, thank you. Jeez, imagine having $1.7 billion. I would not be on CNBC if I had $1.7 billion. I would not have time, trust me. I need more money. You literally, first of all, I'm looking at you. You're not appreciating the money you have right now. And 2 more billion, what effect would it have on his life? What would change? Is there a mountain he wants to buy somewhere? A section of the moon?
Those things aren't about that for them. It's about the list, man. It's about, this little competition and how do I move up the list next year? That's the thing that makes them say, hey guy, I made it up the list. I'm another step up.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Tree Frog says, you don't need to break down Trump's new platform. It'll be broken before you get to it. Well, funny that you say that, actually, because we'll be talking about that component of it too. Let's see, Nug Huffer, I think that's a drug reference, subscribed for 7 months on Twitch, says, it's my day off today and I can't think of a better way to start it than with a huge pot of coffee, a hearty wake and bake, and some TDR. So that did turn out to be true. Thank you, and we'll be back with more right after this. Fascist Killer says, I want to see Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin's ads against Joe Biden's initiatives during the election. Yeah, me too. But the problem is they don't have to actually try to persuade the people. They're not running on the things they're doing. They ran on the opposite of them. Ridiculous how this functions. But anyway, we're gonna mix it up and we're gonna maybe have a little bit of fun. We'll see. We'll jump into this. Donald Trump is at long last launching his own social media site. It's a big win, my producers say. I love this. For moms who deleted their Facebooks in solidarity with the former president being booted from Facebook. That is a funny joke, but I've been following the anti-vax stuff. Those moms are still very much on Facebook. But anyway, what is it? It is Truth Social. It's gonna launch in 2022, technically. You can see there, follow the truth. They're very into this. And Donald Trump announced it saying, I am excited to send out my first truth on Truth Social very soon. TMTG was founded with a mission to give a voice to all. So what does he mean there? What does he mean a truth on truth? Well, so like, you know how on Twitter you tweet? On Truth, you truth. That's what you're doing. And if you like someone else's truth, you can re-truth it. This is like someone pitched this for SNL and they were like, that's a little on the nose. But no, that's actually what they're going with, Gary. You can truth, you can re-truth, you have a truth feed that you can follow, and you can just see a whole bunch of truths on there. We still have a little bit of time, but do you think you'll be signing up for Truth Social?
Sounds like a garden of lies to me. I'm good.
It kind of does. We actually have some proof of that. But first, the behind the scenes. How did this get going? Well, this company was formed by a quote special purpose acquisition company, like regular people own. His partner in this is Digital World Acquisition, which sounds like the bad guy in a sci-fi movie, but that's who he's working with. So these are called blank check companies. They're an increasingly popular type of investment vehicle that sells shares to the public with the intention of using the proceeds to buy private businesses. And so that was incorporated in Miami a month after Mr. Trump lost the 2020 election. He was still challenging the results, still telling people he'd be president, but they were gearing up for this at the time. We talked about that at the time. By the way, in their slide for this is one of the images they show for them galvanizing a conservative media universe. And I don't know about you, that looks like sperm moving towards an egg. That's the only image I get. Am I crazy or is that not sperm moving towards an egg? And one of the sperm is Fox News, one is OAN, one is Newsmax, one is Rumble, which I'll remind you is for right wingers. But anyway, they're all trying to inseminate TMTG. Am I crazy? I don't know, that's what I see.
That was pretty good, John.
Thank you, I think that's there. But anyway, so according to what we have here, he's gotten like $300 million for this. That is $300 million wasted because this thing ain't gonna last. By the way, some of the investors who funded it didn't know that Trump was involved and are kind of frustrated now. They didn't know that this is gonna be a Trump thing. They just thought it was gonna be a social media company, so that's fun. But it gets more fun with Truth Social because this is, after all, Truth Social with your truth feed, and you send out truths. And it's also, by the way, it's a right-wing thing, so there's no cancel culture. There's free speech at last. Twitter and all those, they censor you. These are like, you're not gonna be censored. Except that there is a long list of rules of prohibited activities for Truth Social. And the most fun one is number 23. You are not allowed to disparage, tarnish, or otherwise harm, in our opinion, us and or the site. You literally cannot criticize Truth Social on Truth Social. That's free speech for you, Gary.
Sounds a whole lot like Trump. Sounds exactly like a very sensitive, tiny man who can't deal with people saying anything about him. You know, we already know that the reason he even ran for president is because he got roasted at the Obama. He couldn't handle it. President Obama roasted him, and then he ran for the presidency. So if somebody talks about his little social media platform, he can't take it. You know, He just can't take it. Small man, small man.
Small man, yeah. I guess you can speak certain truths, but not others. You have to keep them to yourself. And it becomes even funnier when you see what he says about this site. He says, we live in a world where the Taliban has a huge presence on Twitter, yet your favorite American president has been silenced. He added that the company behind all this was founded with a mission to give a voice to all, unless you mock me, in which case your ass is grass. It's amazing how it works. Not cancel culture. Let's be very clear about it. You literally can censor people from just pointing out like, hey, like there's some bugs on the site, banned. You're out of here. You can't disparage or tarnish, in our opinion, the site. But that is not actually the funniest thing about this site. The funniest thing, though, is that within just hours of the news breaking, Truth Social was broken. But wait, it's launching in 2022. How is it already broken? Well, they were planning to do a beta version in November, which again, it's not November yet. But apparently, someone named Aubrey Cottle of anonymous fame tweeted out a link that she discovered to it that let you sign up early and use the site, which is not supposed to be available until next year. And so a lot of people did. And so what did they do? Well, a Daily Dot staffer claimed the handle at Donald Trump. Others grabbed his son, real Donald J. Trump, Mike Pence. Like they took all of those accounts. Whoever was running at Donald J. Trump posted a meme of a pig defecating on its testicles, which is allowed. You are allowed to do that. But if you point out that their security is trash, you'll be banned according to rule number 23. So I don't think this is gonna end up being worth $300 million, Gary. I just don't.
Neither is Trump.
That's also true. It's also true. Okay, well, let's turn from that to much more important news. Let's launch into something very different. Hold for 1 second. Sorry, quick transition there. Apologies, it's my fault. You've probably been told for some time during this pandemic that American workers are too lazy. They got used to getting those stimulus checks and now they don't want to work. They just don't want to go to work. That's why the enhanced unemployment had to be cut, because you all are too lazy and they can't get people to fill all of these jobs. Well, a worker in Florida decided to test that theory. Joey Holtz recalled first hearing complaints about a labor shortage last year when he called to donate convalescent plasma at a clinic near Fort Myers, Florida. So overall, good guy, Joey Holtz, trying to donate plasma. Says this guy went on this rant about how he can't find help and he can't keep anybody in his medical facility because they all quit over the stimulus checks. And I'm like, your medical professionals quit over $1,200 checks? That's weird. But anyway, he decided to actually test it. Lives his life by the scientific method and decided to actually test it. So over the next several months, you had all of these businesses saying you have to cut off the enhanced unemployment, no more stimulus checks. We need to get the workers back to work. We desperately need help. We're having to close down Wendy's, people. Well, he said he found it hard to believe the government money was keeping people out of the labor force. And he said, if this extra money that everyone's supposedly living off of stopped in June and it's now September, obviously that's not what's stopping them. So he decided to run an experiment. On September 1st, he sent job applications to a pair of restaurants that had been particularly public about their staffing problems. He's targeting businesses that are saying they can't get workers. Then he widened the test. And for 60 days, he applied to 2 different businesses every single day. And the vast majority of them, and he was tracking a spreadsheet, had been vocal about needing workers. So he had just 9 email responses after 28 applications, 1 follow-up call and 1 interview with a company that advertised a full-time job paying $10 per hour. But when he called them, they were in fact only gonna give $8.65. They'd lied about the wage. and it wasn't actually full time, you'd have to work up to that. You wouldn't actually get benefits initially. You don't get the money, you don't get the benefits. They were lying to you. And this is effectively what we have seen. It's not that they can't find workers, it's that they can't find workers who are willing to be exploited in the way that they were before the pandemic. They're willing to work, and they're even willing to work for the things you say you'll give them in the ads. But when you're lying and you won't give them benefits, you won't give them the wage that they need to actually live, they have a problem with that. And that is the true problem at the heart of our economy right now. It's that workers have had a taste of not being relentlessly ground down under CEOs' boots, and they don't want to go under the boots again. And that is not an issue of the workers, that's an issue of the CEOs as I see it. Gary, what do you think?
I agree 100%. I think that if we really want to be wise about getting people back into the workforce, one, raise the minimum wage. Make sure that you're paying people a livable wage. People after this pandemic have recognized their value. And as they've recognized their value, they're not going to go and take a job to build you up, make you more money while their value is not appreciated by your organization. If your organization is a stand-up organization, then pay people a livable wage. The other thing about this is, there is a logic from 30 years ago that you go to college, you get a job, you work the same job for 20, 30 years and you retire. Well, most young people today, they stay on a job 3 to 4 years, they're moving on to something else. People are becoming more entrepreneurial. People figure out how can they make investments that help them make money long term. And so people are not saying, you know what, I'm gonna take an $8.25 an hour job. Well, I could go sit in my house and figure out how to make $100 faster than I can slaving at your job. And so people are going out and trying to figure out how can they go make money in a legal formative way to create entrepreneur energy. And I hope that some of those people are successful in building organizations and companies that pay people a livable wage and bring people back into the workforce. But this mythological thing that people for $1,200 a month aren't going back to work, $1,200 a month ain't enough to live nowhere in America.
Yep.
And so like telling people that a stimulus check or some type of stimulation to the economy, which by the way, helped Amazon make a ton more money, right? These checks that have come out have helped corporations have some of the best quarters that they've had. They've expanded their companies and grown their businesses. So let's not pretend that this money that was given away was the problem. The problem is your piss poor company.
100%. And thankfully we have some people, AOC was going off about this online. That's good. We have some people who understand this. There might be a crisis, but it's more fundamental than just laziness. We'll see if they actually ever engage with the true crisis. Kind of doubt it. Anyway, that is the end of our first hour. If you're on Twitch or YouTube, we do have more coming for you. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back, everyone. More Damage Report for you. I'm John Iadarola. Gary Chambers joins me. Very glad to have you back, Gary. Thank you again. Before we launch back into our news, though, I do want to let you know about a few things, including that as of right now, if you go to Shop TYT, we do have a new Dragon Squad Heather hoodie available now. Don't miss out on our very own pocket within a pocket. That's what they're saying. But anyway, it's getting a little bit colder. It's nice to be able to rep the Dragon Squad on the outer layer, so might want to look into that. Also, later on tonight, Power Hour with Nina Turner is going to be on at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Should be awesome. They're gonna be laying out this week's villain and hero, and that is of course available to TYT members. So if you're interested in watching Power Hour with Nina Turner and with Jank, you can sign up for membership at tyt.com/join. If you're interested in getting a little taste of it, there is a podcast version that has excerpts the Monday after, so you can look into that as well. Available wherever podcasts are. By the way, if you want to see a little bit of Nina Turner early, Nina Turner is going to be joining Dr. Rashad Ritchie on Indisputable at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. That is going to be an awesome show. You're not going to want to miss it. Okay, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. In the member comments, Skeptic says, we progressives have a chance to rid ourselves of Sinema. I haven't heard, but I hope someone steps up in that primary. She has to go. There will be multiple candidates. Hopefully we can find the best one possible. Koa just signed up for tier 3 membership on YouTube. Thank you, Koa, appreciate that. Look forward to possibly talking with you at the live Q&A next week. Okay, let's see. Franklin Sharpslicer says, Smaug, the Dragon of Gold, will not want to lose even a flake of gold. The Eye of the Tower, Master of the Urukai, sooner or later will lose or die. And maybe we will have him until that second one, because senators don't leave until the last possible minute. Okay, Moondragon says, I have such a hard time not drawing parallels between COVID and the Black Death. Both resulted in the labor market becoming more powerful. Yes, a little bit less directly based on labor supply this time around, but hopefully it will lead to people realizing the power that they have. Nina Niner Dragon says, truth, you keep using that word. I do not think that means what you think it means. Good reference there, totally true. Ali, I believe it's the former. And finally, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, hi, John and Gary. I'm starting to think Sinema wouldn't react. She was sitting on a crate of fireworks that exploded under her. Everybody has buttons that can be pressed, need to find hers. A threat to her money, potentially, like if her donors turned on her, which they won't because she's doing what they want. In terms of like public pressure, her polling is absolute garbage. Like it's terrible right now. And she doesn't care. She doesn't care about the protest. She doesn't care about the things that we can traditionally do. She's looking to the money, that's it. So I don't know if we can raise more money, maybe that'll give us a chance. Anyway, with that said, Gary, why don't we jump into some more news?
Let's do it.
I apologize that it is going to be about this individual though. Meghan McCain has been on a tear ever since she left The View. She's got a new position writing op-eds for the Daily Mail, which seems about right, honestly. And she also has a new audio memoir coming out called Bad Republican. Could have saved yourself one of those words. Anyway, in it, she is revealing some stuff about The View, some stuff about what she thinks about American politics. And I think, look, obviously I disagree with her on virtually everything. Kind of hate her guts. But I don't think that she's wrong about everything that she's gonna be saying here. So let's go through a few of the things that she reveals. So she says there's stuff that happens on The View that shouldn't be allowed. For whatever reason, there's a deep level of misogyny about the way The View is covered and written about in the media, where tabloids are always writing about the co-hosts hating each other backstage. So I don't think that she's necessarily wrong that there is a strain of misogyny to the recurring focus on that element of it. It is a group of women. People are predisposed with baked in misogyny to view them as being catty or whatever. And often there is a lot of media about that. But that said, like, they do seem to fight a lot more than The Five does, for instance. I mean, even she says, my take on the show is that working at The View brings out the worst in people. I believe that all the women in the staff are working under conditions where the culture is so effed up, it feels like quicksand. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because there's no high level oversight of the show from the network. And also, she has criticized the other hosts for being mean to her backstage. So she is to some extent doing the thing that she's criticizing. It doesn't make her criticism wrong, but she does seem to be playing into it. I don't know, what do you think?
I think anytime Meghan McCain talks, we should stop listening.
Yeah.
A broke clock is right twice a day too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. I'm gonna follow that rule, but I want to talk about one more thing because I think it's funny, not because it's important or substantive. I think it's funny. And Gary, it's been a while. It's been a while since you've been here. There's not much left of my sanity. I need to take it while I can get it. So here's the thing that I want to say though. She said that the previous portrayal from Saturday Night Live from 2 years ago made her feel like she was the laughing stock of the country. She hated it. It was back in spring of 2019, and A.D. Bryant played her and mocked the fights that she would have with the other View co-hosts and referred to herself as the Princess of Arizona, which, look, whether you like SNL or not, I think that's pretty funny, and it is accurate. She 100% pitches her only real appeal being that she is a McCain. Like that is how she presents herself. And by the way, SNL makes fun of everyone because SNL is a comedy show. That is what it does. They mock Obama, they mock Trump, they mock like Schiff, they mock everyone. And she herself had previously said that she thought it was hilarious. She tweeted saying that it was hilarious. It was a huge pop cultural honor to be talked about in SNL. She quoted it as her being the Princess of Arizona, but now it's unacceptable. It's laughing stock. It's all of that. Like you're in the public eye, they could make fun of you. Like Gary's gonna be in Congress eventually. I would love to see Gary pop up on SNL. Somebody be playing him, making fun of him.
If you saw all the memes and things that people have already made about me,
already
just get like tough skin. It comes with the territory. It's a part of what it is. Does it suck sometimes? Absolutely, right? Do people want to be made fun of? But I think that when you recognize that Saturday Night Live decided that you were worthy of roasting, you kind of made it. You kind of did something. And so wear that as a badge of honor if you want to, and use it to your advantage. But like trying to make hits at Saturday Night Live, it doesn't stick. That's the joke that doesn't land.
Yeah, and I would also say, just pragmatically, to give a little bit of advice to Meghan McCain, saying that you like making it clear that you're opposed to them making fun of you seems to me like it might raise the odds that they'll do that again. Maybe this is reverse psychology. Maybe she's trying to get put back on it. I don't know.
Score media. Trump only talks so that people talk about him. So maybe she's borrowing a memo from the guy she didn't like.
Yeah, and by the way, like full disclosure, I'm obviously playing into that. I think it's fun to talk about, but I'm giving her what she wants to some extent. But anyway, yeah, like you don't be so. They made fun of John Oliver on SNL on Saturday, and I thought it was a pretty good impersonation. I should be so lucky that someday I'll get made fun of. You don't get to be so like when the only thing that has resulted in you having a steady stream of jobs that you are not in any clear resume sense qualified for is the fact that people know who you are. You don't as much get to be mad about the consequences of people knowing who you are. Like if there's misogyny or whatever, obviously that's wrong and you're allowed to have a problem with that. Simply being on SNL, man, have you seen the impersonation they do of AOC? Like I think it's a little bit slanted, but she's a public figure. So it comes with territory. Anyway. Okay, with that, why don't we turn to something much worse? Oh God, this story. Okay, let's jump into it. A student at Naperville Central High School has received a sentence of probation and community service after a couple of years ago posting a racist Craigslist ad claiming to be offering an African-American classmate up as a slave, according to the ad. The boy was sentenced to 2 years probation, 100 hours of community service. He pleaded guilty on September 1st to 2 counts of felony hate crime and 1 count of misdemeanor orderly conduct. He's also going to be undergoing individual and family counseling as deemed necessary and submitting a sample of DNA to the state of Illinois. The DNA thing seems weird. I don't necessarily understand that. But anyway, what did he do? Well, back on November 14th, 2019, the then 14-year-old freshman took a photo of his classmate while at school and posted an ad on Craigslist with a photo of the individual. I don't even want to read the caption, even censored. We will put it up and you will see that it was explicit racial slur that was affiliated with the photo of another 14-year-old boy. The Naperville police found out about the ad, connected it to the boy 4 days later. And there's a statement from the mother who says they used to be friends, they are not anymore. This is the mother of the victim of this, says they're not anymore. Added that their friendship soured when the white student began teasing her son, quote, calling him dumb, making fun of his skin color, saying, shut up, slave. He didn't know, by the way, for days that the ad was up, and found out as a result of the fact that he became the butt of jokes. Other students then came up to him and said things like, I'll buy you for $1. And this is 14-year-olds. This is what 14-year-olds are doing to each other, Gary.
The question is, who taught him that hate? And where did this country get to the point where young kids right now in 2021 would be talking about slavery and other black children in that way? I've got an 11-year-old daughter that's in middle school right now. And we've gone through all kinds of transitions this year. And something like that could truly negatively impact this kid for years to come. It could scar him in many ways. And I grew up in South Louisiana, and my first experience with racism was around the time that I was 12 or 13 years old, when I went to a school with a bunch of rural white kids, and they took down the American flag to hang up the Confederate flag. And these are things that happened to me 20 years ago, right? And in every generation of this country, we seem to have things that center around race in such a negative way. And the question I always ask is, who taught them that? Because nobody taught me to feel that way towards people of another race. Nobody taught me to make jokes about the negative impacts of other people. You had to have heard that somewhere. And if you heard that somewhere, that's not just in one household. This isn't an isolated event. This is a symptom. This is what we see as a clear symptom of all of our problems of race in this country that are trickling out into classrooms in this country, because we've had incident after incident where things similar to this have happened. Kids coming and hanging Trump flags at schools after Trump lost the election. Kids coming and wearing Confederate emblems to make sure that they intimidate people. All types of things like this. And it, to me, is a reflection of America that we don't want to be honest about. After President Obama, everybody wanted to be in this post-racial society. And then the backlash was President Trump. And we saw everything that came from that. And the question I have is, when are we going to wake up and recognize that this country has deep issues with race that are not going away, and that there have to be greater consequences for people who do things that are like this, because it's wrong.
Yeah, 100%. Especially particularly in the schools. I feel like we can't go a day without some horrible story about sometimes students, often teachers, doing something horrible. Like last week, we had an art teacher who had a taped conversation with his classroom about why he couldn't say the N-word. It's like a grown adult who's never had, he doesn't understand. He wants to for some reason. He really wants to say it. Doesn't understand why he shouldn't. It was defended by the school. We had another one. I don't even remember what it was. There's so many at this point. The pre-show this morning was a teacher in, I think, Riverside, California, who had dressed up in Native American garb and was running around the classroom, war whooping and chopping with a tomahawk. But the problem is, in this country, it's the woke. It's people who care too much about this. It's people who acknowledge racism. It's the supposed curriculum of critical race theory that we're all being taught. That's the problem. But you're totally, that's sarcastic. But as you're right, we need to understand this and we need to acknowledge it for there to be any growth. But we have at least one half of the country who insists that not only is it not a huge problem, it doesn't exist. It never existed. It was never a problem in anything. And somehow they can do this despite all these stories.
You know the thing that is so egregious to me, like in this country, many in white America will tell us about Christopher Columbus like he discovered a country or a place where a continent where people already were, right? And that's okay. But when you tell the truth about the racist history of this country and the things that people have done to people, you don't want to talk about it. And then when people say, hey, not only have you done these things, right now that's offensive, you don't want to be told that either. And the real harsh truth is there are people in white America who don't want you to tell them a damn thing about their racism and their bigotry because they believe that they can do anything in this country. And the truth is that the reason we got Trump is the backlash of the browning of America. And eventually there will be a day where you will not be the majority in the numbers and in the voting blocks and all of these things. And we're gonna fix these problems, and our children are gonna be able to go to school and be treated with decency and dignity. And we're gonna ensure that because we're gonna continue to create these beautiful children that other kids are picking on.
Yeah, I hope that you're right, and I hope it's as soon as possible, especially considering some of these issues, like we can't just wait. Like it can't be, in 20 years, like, oh good, now we'll do climate change. Like we need to get to this soon. And yeah, you're totally right. It is just that we are a country that cannot have a mirror held up to us. We can't stand it. We can't understand our history. And yet we tell ourselves that we're gonna be on Truth Social. We're gonna be posting our truths. I care about truth. I just wanna know what's really going on. Don't tell me what's going on. I don't wanna know, but I'm gonna post truths.
We understand our history well, John, and that's why they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't understand so many people. I don't understand why you're so scared of understanding the world. Like, I don't understand it. Okay, we have one more story we're gonna talk about in just a moment. But first, I did want to thank a few people in the audience, including Wasabi Dragon for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you for that. D Rocky gifted 1 as well. Raptor Wow gifted 5. An amazing bout of ambassadorship over on the Twitch channel. Thank you. Raptor Wow also became a member for the second month. Just second month, already gifting subs. So nice of you. Mama Panda hit 4, says woo. Krugen hit 5, thank you. Let's see, Barrel Aged Millennial says, can I untruth other users or comments too? What do you think liking a truth is gonna be called? I don't know that I want to know. Let's see. Scott Stevens says, I think TDR would reach a new tier if SNL spoofed John and Co. God only knows what it would be about these days. So I'll wait until things change a bit. But anyway, who put the, so Alejandro says, tank the whole bill, get back to the drawing board and pass it all through reconciliation, 6 trillion for both in the same bill. But they won't, And look, in terms of tanking the whole bill, we do have to figure out what the final result is, but I will say what I've said from the very beginning. So they have their bipartisan bill, we have our reconciliation bill. They'll threaten to tank both, we'll threaten to tank both. It isn't equal. They don't care nearly as much about their bill. They don't need it as bad as we need the reconciliation bill. I don't think Sinema is gonna lose a whole lot of sleep if nothing whatsoever gets done. And that's the difficult position that we've been placed in. It is not a level playing field that we are fighting on. We're suffering more, we need more help. Millions of Americans need it bad. And if nothing gets done in the bills, well, we also don't raise the taxes, which is really the only concern of their donors at the end of the day. Okay, one more story. Let's jump into this video. That video that you just saw was taken just 2 days ago at the 8th Street station in Greenwich Village. And it shows Andrew Gilbert, a 27-year-old, who says that he had just gotten off of a train on his way to work. And he approached 2 officers at the subway station who were not wearing masks and asked them to put them on. The rule is they are supposed to be wearing masks. Andrew Gilbert says the male officer was playing dumb and claimed he couldn't hear me. I kept asking him over and over, do you know it's illegal not to wear a mask? I kept asking him the same thing, and then he said, you're being disruptive, which I guess is their key word for doing whatever they want if they declare you disruptive. That is true, that checks out actually. He walked into me, grabbed me and pushed me, grabbed me by the shirt, pushed me to the emergency exit, slammed me through it, was yelling at me how if you're not gonna ride the train, you can get out. And the thing is, on the trains, they have announcements about wearing masks. It says that you have to do it, and they're just choosing not to. And apparently leaders of the MTA there have pleaded with the NYPD to wear masks. And supposedly there's a fine for riders who don't, but they're not riders. They're police, they're not civilians, they're not regular people. They're better than us. They are above the law because they adjudicate the law. And so they just choose not to. And remember, by the way, of like all of the departments of government in terms of compliance with getting vaccinated, cops are about the worst. So I don't know about those two individuals. Maybe they're vaccinated. I don't know. But they refuse to wear masks even though the rule is that they're supposed to. And they will not react kindly if you point that out to them, Gary.
You know, the real deal is there are thousands of NYPD cops that are not vaccinated. You said it, you hit the nail on the head. There are police officers who believe that they can live above the law. And the true deal is, like many of the people who go into law enforcement, they can't take criticism. They can't take somebody coming to them and saying, hey, you do what you're supposed to do the way that you're telling us to do what we're supposed to do, right? Because if an engineer on a train comes by and says, hey, we need this person to wear a mask, that cop maskless is gonna come in and say, you need to put a mask on. And if you don't, they'll kick you off the train. And then the question is, do you have a pathogen while you're maskless and you're encountering me that you're passing on to me while you're shoving a man through a gated door, right? Because he asked you to just put a mask on. Are you that soft, man, that somebody can't walk up to you and ask you to put a mask on? If you're that soft, you shouldn't be a cop. It doesn't make you bold and brave about slamming a slim guy into a fence because you got mad because you couldn't put a mask, because you didn't want to put a mask on. What it really says is you're a loser. You're a loser with a badge who can't take somebody asking you to do what is required by the law. And you know what I don't understand about this mask thing? It's not that hard, man. It's really not that hard. You know, it's not like they're saying specifically what kind of mask you have to wear either. You know, it's just like, if you're gonna be around a bunch of other people in an enclosed area, just put a damn mask on, right? And if you're gonna be a cop who actually enforces the rules against other people, won't you follow the rules that you enforce? But much like in other areas, cops don't enforce many rules on themselves. That's why they get away with murder too. So if they're getting away with murder, surely they're gonna get away with not wearing a mask.
Yeah, no, they're not getting fired for it, even though it's being cataloged. There's at NYPD Mask Watch is a Twitter account, and we can go through a few of those. It's just they're just casually just not wearing masks. No, and it's too much. I mean, they literally have to wear a uniform, but they won't wear a mask. You know the way that you get them to wear a mask? You have like badass black masks and say that the troops in Iraq used to use them. Because they'll use any equipment that came from overseas that was for waging war. Just have it like with a paint job that matches their grenade launcher, and they'll wear it. If it matches their MRAPs, they'll wear it then. Only if it's military equipment. If it's to protect other people, not so much. And that's my last question. Which is this not wearing masks? Is that protecting or is that serving? Which of those two is you not wearing masks? Anyway, yeah, Gary, you're totally right. They're not gonna get any trouble, and if they get people sick, whatever. They don't seem to care. They look casual as hell. Yeah.
They don't care.
Anyway, that is unfortunately all the time that we have. I wish we had a few more minutes, Gary, but it's great to have you back. Very excited to have you back on the network. Where can people follow your work?
You can follow me at Gary Chambers Jr. I thank you, John, and the Damage Report for having us again. It's been a long time, but it's good to be back.
Good to have you here. We got to get you on a power panel soon. I'm gonna talk to the team, try to get you on there with Cenk. Okay, man, have a good one.
Be good.
For those of you at home, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go do an interview that'll be up for us very soon. I also want to let you know your Thursday homework has now arrived. You can go to the community tab on the YouTube channel and vote in our Garbage People of the Week poll that we've got there. You might have to scroll down a little bit, but you'll find it. And we've collected some prime garbage for you, and you get to choose which one's gonna be tossed in the can tomorrow. Brett Ehrlich will be joining me as always. Hold on one sec. Indisputable is coming up. Nina Turner's gonna be there. You're not gonna wanna miss it. It's gonna be awesome. And also reactions, 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's coming up after Indisputable. You can watch reactions with Ravana. So a lot to look forward to. But until next time, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.